Marshall in the middle.
So we're now recording. We're like we got this going, right? I'm here with Kent Walker, like CW3. Uh, you were tell me about you're flying along, crashes or something happened. What? Tell me about that day, right? Take me. Tony tells me about right her notification and everything. Like, take me back to that day, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I said, this one was this February 2002. I was flying. I got off of active duty. And I was flying for the Florida National Guard as an instructor pilot on the Apaches, the attack helicopters. And we had put a task force Jaguar together for a group of four of us. We're going to go to Afghanistan, and just as a task force with the third ID. And it was a 4 aircraft mission. We were in Florida, mid Florida, and a lot of stuff happened. We doing a phase line stuff. We've been hovering, shooting up this area simulation, and then one broke north, south, east, and we broke to the west. And I just kicked a hard left turn, and then right when I leveled it out, I was probably doing about 120 knots, about maybe 40, 50 feet off the top of the trees, and I lost one engine, so went to start to reset one engine, and then my second engine failed on me. So at that point, I was so fast and so low. In a helicopter, when you lose both engines like that, you're supposed to auto rotate, but I didn't have enough altitude to auto rotate, so I was just started skimming the trees. And the next thing I know is just started hitting the trees, and I hit left side low and crashed into the trees. But we hit so hard. The accident report said we hit at over 100G impact. It knocked out my ELT, which is emergency locator transmitter. So satellite would have picked me up and told the other three guys where I was at. So that broke. That didn't work. Sat there a few minutes. I was trying to get to my radio, but my left arm and shoulder was pinned underneath me and broke. My right hand was broke. I was split from across here my face. My left side of the face was split open. My left femur was hanging out. My left knee was broke, and I had a bunch of punctures. And I was trying to talk to my co-pilot. He was. I didn't realize this at the time, but I mean, the accident report and the autopsy, he had broken both legs, both arms, swallowed his teeth. He just said he couldn't move. So I just told him to keep talking to him, try to get to your radio. Hopefully somebody would come. Like I said, once the radio, everything was dead, the power was dead, the engines had quit. So we've been knocked out for a little bit. I mean, some of this stuff is kind of, a little fuzzy back and forth. But like I said, once my ELT didn't go off after a few minutes, I said, okay, let me get to my phone. So I struggled to I had a phone on my side, looked at it, it was no signal. Couldn't get, like I said, couldn't get to my radio. It was pinned underneath we had landed and crashed left side low. So my radio was pinned underneath me. I couldn't get to that. So tried the phone, radios were dead. He couldn't get his radio. So then I pulled, what did I do next? Oh, it got dark by this time too. Also, it was dark. Forgot to mention that. So I was going to get my pin flares out. So I got my safety vest unzipped, got my pin flares out. Like I said, this hand was broke. This one was pinned behind me. So I was doing everything with one broken hand. And when I got my flares out, they were fucking duct taped together. I was like, oh my God. So I tear them with my teeth, got a pin flare loaded with my mouth. Like I said, this was all split open. I don't know if you can see it, but I got the damn thing loaded. Apparently, I blew my canopies. I didn't know that, but I got deck cord around my canopies in there. So I had to blow my canopies. And I had like one shot to get between these trees. So I got my my pin flare in position, pulled the trigger back, ping, the fucking trigger broke off. I was like, no. What else could go wrong, So I think that didn't work. So I was just banging that, on the side of the helicopter. I got a strobe light out, turned it on, pulled a little orange thing out, and just started going, man, we're done. And then say, my co-pilot, it was his 25th birthday that day. turned 25. We were talking about what we were going to do that night and everything. And then he just passed away in front of me, so I was kind of going through that loss and thinking to myself, I was starting to bleed out myself, going, just nobody's coming. I didn't hear any helicopters. We were probably about an hour and a half into the mission, so I knew the other guys only had about 30 minutes of fuel, and they had about a good, it had been an hour before they were refueled and get back to look for us. And so it was just quiet. Everything's going. So I started working on my radio again. By this time, it was probably by the time I finally struggled, wiggled, and got my radio out, got it unzipped, got it out of the pouch, and turned on. About 3 hours had passed. So nobody had found us for about over 3 hours. And I finally got the radio on, made the radio call, and then within a few minutes they were on top of us, searchlights, and everything. They had to cut us out because we were just, you know, messed up pretty bad in that thing. They couldn't get us out. They were talking about amputating my leg and all that stuff. So I was kind of going through that. Then they hit me with the morphine and put like a white sheet over me while they were cutting and sawing. The sparks were going everywhere. And I was just, it's one of those things you hear all the time. People see the white light, so I was like, oh, fuck. Just all I could see was this white light and sparks going everywhere. And I was, I got hit up with the morphine. So I was kind of going in and out. And it kind of got fuzzy at that point. But, long story short, just a unlucky day for me. I questioned, why me, why him, not, why, how come I survived, all that stuff you kind of go through. So it was and then a lot of times you go through this guilt, you go through this aviation safety inspection, and most of these accidents, even if you lose an engine and you don't do the right things, it's still called pilot error if you don't do the right procedures to land this thing correct. So for over a year, I kind of had that guilt. They're going to blame it on me. This guy was a young 25-year-old young kid. His dad was a sergeant major in the National Guard. His brother was a 58 Kiowa pilot. His sister was West Point. It's just a whole military family. So I had that big guilt for a while. Finally, they had the safety board came out and they said it was mechanical failure, no pilot error. But for that whole year, I just went through this mental distress of you know, you know why all this shit happened. And in the meantime, my daughter, my firstborn daughter, had only been born like 10 days prior to that. So poor Tony, everybody was going poor Kent and poor Justin, my co-pilot. Nobody was really looking at poor Tony. I mean, she was just had a baby. And I was in the hospital like 2 weeks or so, came home, was in a hospital bed into the house, and she just had a new baby. So, she was wiping two asses there for a while, So then after that, I finally got in a wheelchair for a couple months, and several months later, I got into a walker, and then several months later, physical therapy. And, I had this Zimmer rod, titanium rod in my leg. My knee was all done, and I was just useless. I mean, this arm was all in a cast. This hand was in a cast, trying to hold my newborn baby, and it was really stressful. And Tony had a stressful time too. So I think that's kind of what eventually got her. She wasn't in the military at the time. I was the only one, in the military. And I think that's kind of eventually what got her into behavioral health, into the mental health side of things, because she saw all that stuff and what families go through. And you really have to look at the whole picture too, not just the wounded soldier. You got to look at what it's doing, to the spouse and the families involved and everything too. So, just briefly, that's kind of what it is. I didn't want to get that much into it, but it was just a bad day.
So you were flying an Apache, not an Osprey.
No, I was in the Marines before, but then I was trying to get into the F-18 program. I got turned down, so then I switched over to the Warren Officer program in the Army, and I flew Cobras, and I finished the top of my class there, and then got the Apache. So I've been flying Apaches the whole time, and I became an instructor pilot. And like I said, it was all Apaches, attack helicopters, not Ospreys. I don't know what that came from.
Yeah, that came from me. That came from me.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
it's an interesting thing to think about that airframe and the reliability of it. That you had a dual engine failure there,
yeah.
and that's I don't know. I don't know. Thank you for your service. Thank you for taking it into the trees and doing. I just can't. What goes through your mind when it's dark and you try the pin flare, your face is split open, your partner's not responding to you, and you're stuck. I mean, tell me. I mean, talk to me about that time. Can you iterate what was in your head?
Mm. No, a lot of stuff with them. I didn't really think I was going to make it because I started getting that tunnel vision. Things started going yellow on me. I think because I was bleeding so much, it was just about to go out. I scribbled something on my helmet. I can't remember what it was. And just thinking that, hey, this is it. It was just quiet. The leaves blowing. It was just one of those serene moments where it was. Like I said, I knew he'd passed away. Thinking of him and his family, and my family. Oh shit! Here it is. It's you know you're on top of the world at one minute, go hero to zero. What the hell is this the way I'm going to go out? And then I suppose luck just changed and give up and kept digging. Like I said, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. I can't remember the whole thing, but to finally get to that, once I turned it on, I suppose I got a little bit of hope out of it. But it was just, you're laughing in the car, having a good time with your buddy. The next thing you're dead. It was just, it wasn't war or anything. It wasn't combat, but it was a real world situation. It's just, and sometimes it's kind of sad to think that these things they happen while in training. But if this would have happened in Afghanistan, you're almost like a fucking war hero. Everybody's, oh, great this, that, leave all this, but since it happened in training, it almost really didn't count. So going over the years, like the Wounded Warrior Project, they said, well, it was training, weren't in combat. And I said, well, yeah, okay, but I guarantee I suffered just as much as some of these other people who got shot up or wounded or whatever it is. It might not
Wow.
over there, but it was in Florida, and I went through the same feelings and pain and struggling that anybody else did. But I mean, I see his point or their point, but it's kind of sad how some of these guys who serious things happen to them in training, they get treated as almost like a second class accident or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. You don't get the attention that everybody would, oh, well, it happened over in Afghanistan or Iraq. Some of those people become like war heroes, and I don't know. I just shouldn't even say that, but it was just, it was like, I don't know. It's like being on the football team and sitting on the bench the whole time. You never really got to go in and play. You know, it had a icky feeling to it too sometimes. So I never really like to talk about it. I don't know if Tony told you I really don't like to talk about it. People ask, I say, it's nothing. I don't really get into it. But if this is something that my kids could hear, because I never tell my kids much about it or anything. So I figured I'd share this with you, but I didn't really go into much of the details that I really saw and what I really heard with my co-pilot. I think it would be too much to talk about. Sometimes I get too emotional when I get into it deeply. You know. So I mean, it was 20 years ago. I still think about it all the time. Every time I shave, I see my face, and certain things kind of bring it up. So I've suffered. I would suppose what they call the PTSD stuff. Things things take me to that dark place at times. Anger pops up or stressful situations, or but I wanted to fly again. I tried to fly again. Just wouldn't let me because I'd been knocked out and the rod in my leg and my knee wired up stuff. Put me back on flights. I had to medically retire in 2004 after 2 years of physical therapy in hospitals and all that stuff. They medically retired me as a CW3, so I didn't get to go the route I wanted to go. So that kind of ended my career.
Well, tell me about young Kent. Where are you from?
From Salisbury, North Carolina. I don't know if you know near. Um, Born and raised there. Born and raised in a trailer park. It was kind of poor. Um, Struggled a little. My dad was alcoholic. My mom was the one really pushing me. She pushed me in Boy Scouts. I made Eagle Scout. Went to local high school, wrestled, ran track, ran cross country. Went to college at a small Western Carolina university up in the mountains of Cullowhee near Maggie Valley and all that area. Got into outdoor stuff, hiking, mountain biking, all that, whitewater rafting stuff and kayaking and stuff. And then after that, after college, I just wanted out. All the only jobs I could get was in some textile mills or some furniture factories because I had a degree in industrial technology, and I said, man, I need to get out of North Carolina. And I just never. My parents never had. It was a big deal for us to go to Myrtle Beach, once a summer, 3 hours away to for a vacation. I'd never been off the East Coast or anything. I don't think I'd ever been in an airplane. But, so I went down to the recruiter trying to go officer because I had just had my degree. They said, well, OCS is about a year and a half back up because the session was going back. This was at 1984. So he said, well, you can go and look. Shit, I'll take that as long as I could get into aviation. So I got the aviation side of the Marine Corps, aviation operation, tactical operation, guaranteed. I think I was coming out of boot camp 5 within the first year. Okay, then I'll just apply to OC once I get it. I'll already get that background. So I did that route. Went in, the 4-year college degree, damn Marines. Had a great time. Went to Paris, left there, went to Meridian, Mississippi for the training, the school. Went to Toro, California, Mag 11, and was in F-18 squadron there. Started applying for flight school. Got down 3 years in a row while I was in the Marine. So after that first year, let me go get my master's. I had bought a damn motorcycle and I was driving back and forth to. I got accepted to the University of Southern California for grad school at night. After a full day of work, jumped on a motorcycle, hauled ass to USC, going and take a night class, get my MBA. Still applying for flight school every year, turned down. Still working on my degree, getting turned down the second year. Got turned down my third year. So then he sent me over to Japan to do my fourth and last year with the Marines. So I went to Iwakuni, Japan, finished up there, had a great time. Still single. I was a single guy the whole time. Great time at USC. I was in Southern Cal, learned how to scuba dive out there, hit all the beaches, chasing women and all that good stuff, I suppose. And then got into OCS out in the St. Louis Obispo. So got into the California OCS program. I said, okay, I'll just go get my commission, and I'll apply for flight school again after that. So I got into OCS, did that for about 6 months, and then I heard about a warrant officer flight training program, a WAFT program. I said, what the hell is a warrant officer, and what is WAFT training? So I applied to that. Luckily, I got accepted. So I dropped out of OCS, went to be a warrant officer at Fort Rucker or Mother Rucker, Alabama. Went there, started flying the Hueys, tracked attack helicopters, flew the Cobras. Like I said, finished the top of my class there. So then they sent me straight. So within a year and a half, I learned how to fly the Huey, the Cobra, and then the Apache. And there I was, fresh warrant officer. I was sitting in that Apache going, what the hell just happened to this Southern barefoot trailer park boy? Now I'm flying a multi-million-dollar helicopter. Shit dreams do come true. So, I didn't get what I wanted as a F-18 pilot, but I tried every year, tried my best. Things didn't work out, so I just regrouped, and it all worked out. And like I said, I love flying the Apache. That was some of the best times I've had in my life was flying that thing day and night. And you loop it, you could roll it, you fly. It had missiles, it had a 30-millimeter gun on it, rockets, and it was a beast. It was just one hell of an aircraft. happened to got a bad one that day. Yeah, shit happens, and nothing I could do about it. That's just what God had me, and I just had to deal with it. In short, that's about it. Like I say, I got out. Let me see. Got it as a warrant officer. Finished at Fort Rucker. Went to the 11th ACR in Fulda, Germany. We the first Apaches up there. So we bounced around, showing off the Apaches in Fulda, Germany. Got my spurs there, the cat spurs. Had a great time. Still single. I'm taking German, living with a German girl out in town. Having a great time. Uh, uh, Germany, spent 2 years in Germany, and then went to the second army in Fort Hood. So started flying there, still single, chasing women all over Texas, and flying that Apache all over the South. A couple times we go out to pick up some few Apaches and fly back. And then in 1986, I got tired of it. Shit, I'm tired of flying these things. I want to go make some money. So I got out, became a headhunter for doctors in Dallas. It was Merritt Hawkinson Association. I was out. I'd go interview doctors, then I'd go interview hospitals and try to match them and stuff like that. But it was a good paying job. It's hard. Like I said, I was still single in an apartment, brand new car, and making good money. But then after about 6 months, it got really old because I was doing nothing but flying, nothing but traveling. They were monitoring all my calls, and I had to make so many calls and so many trips. So then I said, "F that! I'm going on another adventure." So I was reading something up in I heard of this company called Mile High Adventures and Entertainment. It was in Denver, Colorado. So I said, "F Dallas." Jumped in my car, drove up to Denver, Colorado. Didn't even know who these people were. Walked in, asked for an interview, and they hired me. So then I started working for this. It was mainly for singles only. So I wanted to meet women and do some outdoor stuff. But it was an outdoor adventure company. I learned how to because I was wanting to open up one myself. So I said, let me go work for one first, figure out how they do it. And then there's all this .com stuff was, so I was, okay, I'll put it. They had a magazine they put out, like a weekly flyer. And they said, okay, they were going skydiving this weekend or hiking or biking and then they would, invite all these people out and they'd have these meet and greets and socials and all that stuff. So, well, this was awful neat. So I learned how to do all that. And then I was reading, I don't know if it was business magazine or whatever. I said, okay, I got this idea. Now I'll take it to it myself somewhere. And I read where best place to live in the United States, Gainesville, Florida. So I said, shit, packed up my car, drove to Gainesville, Florida, still single again, and got a place right there beside the University of Florida campus. Missed flying again, so I went and knocked on the Florida guards door. I said, hey guys, is there any way I can fly for you guys part time? They said, yeah. So did an interview with me and got everything squared away. Got my flight physical back. Took a flight with them. They said, okay, we'll take. Had a great time. Joined the Florida Guard, and then I was selling uh, uh, fluid system components for a company out of Jacksonville, and that's how I met my wife Tony. She was a Florida Gator. She was actually a manager apartment complex I was in. I think she read my file and saw how much money I made, and she knocked on my door. That's kind of the quick story of where I came from. Because I think you told better than me. Yeah, she's something fun. All the women I've ever met, I think she's the one that finally settled me down. She can wear the ball cap during the day. Our first date was shooting, throwing darts, and then the next day I took her skydiving. So I suppose she kind of fell for me. So I like the woman. And then, like I said, then she put on a dress and be a classy. I dated all kinds of women from different countries, different styles. Yeah, and she was different, So that was first love of my life. Old T Love out of Gainesville, Florida. Where we I didn't get after the first day, I got rid of her. 22 years later.
I think it's great. I think it's great. Look, I just saw you guys were in my neck of the woods because so I'm from Dothan, Alabama. I grew up in Dothan. My dad worked at Rucker, Hanchey, Cairns,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh Low Field, all those things. My dad was the TADS Penvis guy for Lockheed Martin on the Apache.
I did
Right?
not. That was the best. That TADS Pemba system is. If anybody doesn't know anything about the FLIR, it's a it's a forward-looking infrared image. But when I'm looking through that thing as the TADS is a little rougher than the PEMVAS. The PEMVAS is the pilot night vision system that the pilot uses in the back, with that one eye, that CRT cathode ray tube that flips over your right eye. It's a 1-inch CRT, and it's got all that symbology in there: your torque, your airspeed, your trim, your guns, rockets, missiles, all that's in there. And you're looking through that symbology, but you're looking through that FLIR, and it's so good. It's picking up the heat difference. I mean, you can see a blades of grass flipping through the air. It's not seeing that blades of grass. It's seeing the heat difference between that surrounding temperature and that blade of grass. You can look in the woods. You can see rabbit. You can see deer. And like in Dothan, there are hogs and pigs everywhere. You can see a gas truck driving down the road. You can see the actual fuel inside the tank fuel, or you look at a water tower, you can see the water in that tower because you're seeing that temperature difference in that thing. But an amazing system, as your dad probably knows. But it was incredible technology for the time too. And like I said, that stuff's 30, 40 years old, but still used today. Amazing technology.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So tell me about your time at Mother Rucker. What tell me about that time.
Oh, the Rucker was something else. Wow. Uh, like I said, arrived there. I'd already been in the Marines. Like I said, was an OCS, got to Mother Rucker as a W1, went to the one officer flight training program. Great time, great guys I met. I met some really super long time friends. Some of them I'm still friends with today. Still linking up with a few of them here and there on Facebook. Just met one about 2 weeks ago. He doesn't get on, but his wife does. But another guy flew. He ended up flying Blackhawks and works for Wells Fargo as a stockbroker now. But it was just a tight community, guys. We were there tight. We were locked in with each other. It was, a little bit strict, a little bit different. But I'd already been through the Marines, which I feel, was fairly tough. I didn't have to go through the Army boot camp, since if you were a Marine, you didn't have to go to the Army boot camp. So I lost a lot of the values of the Army. I didn't know the Army song, some of these other little basic things to it. But flight school itself was awesome. Flying the Huey was awesome. Flying all over Dothan, Alabama, as you know, the whole areas, all the different airfields. You'd fly to go out and to go get gas. Fill up, girls come pick up the golf carts, and take it out to lunch, dinner. Because here you're spending $1,000 fuel, so they got the best looking women coming up, picking you up on these golf carts, and it was just awesome. It was a good single life. Panama City, just right there below. We were in UCLA, an unknown corner of Lower Alabama, so you could shoot down to Panama City. And that's when the big what was the MTV stuff was going on, the Club La Vida and Spinnakers and all these clubs, thousands and thousands of young kids down there in the water and the pools, and but I was drinking at the time still. It was just whew, fun and exciting and different. And then, like I said, then flying the Cobras. When I got in, and when I tracked attack. You could track utility, attack, or lift, or something. I forgot what the other one was. But anyway, it was either, to me, it was either guns or go guns or go home kind of deal. But the first time I flew a Cobra, I was like, oh my god, this thing was so sweet. It was just a real tight tandem aircraft, single engine, but it just had such a reputation from all these older people I knew in Vietnam. It was all the Cobra, the Snake. This was, and I've seen it in the Marine dual version of it was in the Marine, and it was just a bad looking aircraft. And I was like, man. But the first time I flew that thing, I was, again, like I said, I grew up poor, didn't have any money. I was like, oh my god, they're letting me fly this damn thing, and I'm not the brightest. I'm somehow lucky that just slid by high school and college. But I did pretty good on the mechanical stuff and the flight stuff. For some reason, that that's just what fit me. I just loved flying that damn thing, the feel of it and the power it had. I tell you, I had one instructor pilot took me on my night check ride. I flew for like 10 minutes. He goes, "You're good. You know what you want. I have the control." He had love tattooed across his knuckles and had this big old, handlebar mustache down here. The DAC guys, I suppose. They weren't the military. They're called the civilian DAC, whatever the DAC stood for. But that guy, he went into Vietnam at 19 flying Cobras. So this was probably 1980. He could fly the shit out. It was at nighttime. You had to flip the goggles down. So in the Cobra was the flipping down a set of NVS's, the goggles on these things. Nothing like the flare. So a whole completely different night flying with it. And that guy would pitch this damn thing roll. And this was on my check ride. I was supposed to be having a check ride, but he said, "Okay, you're good. Passed the, nailed the oral and everything." He said, "Let's just go have some fun." So, oh hell yeah. So he's rolling down nighttime, downtown Dothan or wherever the hell we were. He dives down between the trees, just flying over at car levels, I'm just blazed, just barely in the damn tree, and would peel that damn thing up, do these return to targets. I was going, "Oh my God, this is my kind of life here." Get paid to do this shit. So, but anyway, yeah, I did great in Cobras. Like finished top of the class. They only had one slot for Apaches, and thank God I got that damn thing because you'd fly the Cobras and you see the Apaches sitting out in the airfield. I'm going, "Oh man, that thing to me was just a beautiful, beautiful helicopter. It was just a beast." A two-time beast version of what the Cobra was. So you went from a 20 millimeter to a 30 millimeter. You went from a tow missile, two wire missile to a Hellfire laser guided missile. Same 2.75 rockets on, but then you went from those goggles to that forward-looking infrared FLIR TADS PIMPA system, which was just so sweet. So yeah, I would have paid them to go to flight school, take, but just I had a great time there. Met some of the greatest men, that I've met there. Uh, Good people, just had a good time. So to me, Mother Rucker I enjoyed every bit of it. Enjoyed Dothan, enjoyed Enterprise, enjoyed, Panama City. And then several years later, I came back as instructor pilot. But that damn course stressed me out. I lost like 10, 20 pounds. I mean, they were constantly quizzing me, and you're talking the whole time. They're pulling your engines off. They're cutting your power. They're pulling your hydraulics. And I was just stressful. But then again, it was really, really fun. I like that sphincter factor kind of shit. So loved it. IP score. I came back, like I said, probably lost 20 pounds, looked like a ghost. But when I got back, I was like, "Damn, that was fun." But I didn't chase any women that time. I just studied the whole damn time. I didn't have time to even go out. But and then right when I got back from that is about the time I met Tony. So calmed down a little bit after that. The single life was over. Damn it. I got married at the age of 40. So I finally settled down. It took me 40 years to settle down, but I'm glad I did. Got two beautiful girls. One's 20, one's 16 now. And yeah, it's marriage life's a little tough. It's just ups and downs. And, me and Tony are both kind of drinking and partying at the same time. So yeah, it gets tough. I don't know if you want to record this, but it's one of those either fight or fornicate. That's about the way our marriage. Yeah, but it's all good. Two beautiful kids. I got a stepchild she was married before, so he's up in Wisconsin and Preston. But my two girls, Elizabeth, couldn't ask for anything better. Love them to death. My littlest one's in JROT. I'm trying to get her to go into the Space Force. Stay out of the Marines, stay out of the Army. Either go to the Air Force or space. Try to fly something. I don't care if it's an invisible jet or whatever. Fly something if you can.
That's what I want to do. I
Yeah,
want to be on the Space Force on a remote outpost, like on a asteroid belt somewhere in the far reaches of Mars or something.
yeah. Have the aliens pick me up, take me on a ride or something. But yeah, I mean, so I've taught them both how to drive a stick shift. So we got an old Jeep, so they do that. I sent them to motorcycle school this summer, so they know how to drive motorcycles. I want them to not because I've seen so many women be dependent on men. and not knowing things about the world. So I'm trying to get them, things I didn't have growing up. I'm trying to get them educated early, stuff like that. And next summer I'm gonna get them into scuba diving. I got into scuba diving myself. I got into cave diving, skydiving. Like I said, I liked all that sphincter factor kind of stuff. I like to have my hair on fire and on things, and I still do. And like you just found first I never done a triathlon before, and last weekend me and Tony did a fucking Ironman. I don't even know how we did it, but we stuck together. We did this swim, bike, and it was to swim 2.4 miles. That was a bitch though, because the swells were really heavy and people were throwing up in the water. They pulled out over 100 people out of the water. These were athletes. They pulled 100 of them out because it was just, you swim 2.4 miles. That's a lot of seasickness. Luckily, we took Dramamine. So, because we heard the year before people got sick too. So let's just take Dramamine and then hope we can survive the swim. Because Tony's from Florida. She swam like a fish her whole life. I really didn't know how to swim until about 3 or 4 months ago. I could swim my head out, but I had to learn how to put my head down, do the stroke, breathe. I didn't know how to do none of that shit 4 months. So I learned how to do it at the gym and stuff. But anyway, yeah, we survived 2.4 miles swim, and we got on our damn bikes and pedaled for 112 miles, jumped off, and then ran a full 26.2 mile marathon. And you had to do all that within that 7 hour period. That's why I told you last I couldn't do it, because I was kind of focusing training on that last minute stuff, and then it came back. I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I was embarrassed to say, "Oh, I'm gonna go do an Ironman." Then oh, I didn't make it. So I didn't tell anybody. So thank God we both survived. We got through it together. We both got the medal. It was a tough week, but I think that's probably one of the most exciting things I've done in a while. Because I've lost my excitement lately. There's nothing. I haven't challenged myself in a few years. I got so busy with life and kids, work, and I missed all the flying stuff. Rarely scuba diving, but don't skydiving. So I think that was something that put a spirit back into me. A little challenging thing. The the slogan for the Ironman is anything possible. I was going, yeah, you're right. Just it was amazing. I suppose journey. I suppose you put yourself through. 6 months ago, there's no way I can do that. I can't even swim, more or less. Bike and then run a marathon. But somehow it all worked out. It kind of made us a little tighter. We did it together. Most people do it as an individual thing, but honestly, I think we were about the only couple, maybe one more that actually did the whole thing together. Which kind of
I can't even imagine. So you swim 2.5 miles, then
yeah.
you
Ocean
bicycle for what, 110, 112,
12, yeah, and that Florida heat is 80 degrees heat.
and then you run a marathon.
Yeah.
26.2
Yes, sir. That's it. Yeah.
in
It's all
in one day. Just like, I'm gonna go swimming, then I'm gonna go biking, and then I'm gonna go running, and it's like, okay, then now I'm done.
a year ago. I was like, "There's no fucking way I would even try that," But
Oh no,
yeah,
no.
I didn't mean either. I was like, "No, it doesn't even sound fun." But then I started thinking about it. I started reading about it and reading the challenge, and I said, "Well, why not? Maybe I'll just attempt it to swim. If I get pulled out, then at least I can say I tried." You know. But then it just for somehow, by the grace of God, we finished it. A guy actually died. He was behind us, but he fell right before the finish line, got up, crossed the finish line just in time, and he died right there. He was 73 years old, but he died at the damn finish line. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, he put it all. I don't know if he died doing what he loved, but it's just amazing. Some people, it was just some of the stories of these people were amazing. They'd been in accidents, and some had given, one lady had given some, I don't know if she donated half of a lung or a liver or something, but then 6 months later she's running a freaking Ironman. I was like, geez. But amazing stories of some of these people too. That's the kind of people that I like to be around. That Either challenge themselves. If it's not something like that, challenge yourself in something. Just do something. Something fun. But it's kind of going back to. I hate to go back to it, but when I met Tony, after I did that Mile High Adventure thing I was telling you about, learned how to do all of that. Me and Tony started an outdoor adventure club in Gainesville. We started taking people. I took them skydiving. I took them flying planes. We hiked, biked, kayak, whitewater rafted. We did social nights, dinner nights, and probably had about uh, I think a couple of people actually in the club met each other and married each other through our club. It was kind of cool. You know, and then that's when my crash happened. And everything went to hell after that. Lost that, and had to regroup. Things got tough. I got into commercial real estate stuff. Another long story, but yeah. I mean, we went after we left Florida. After my accident, I had to kind of regroup everything. Lost the adventure club. Went back to Charlotte, North Carolina. I bought a house that was in a foreclosure. Got into commercial real estate in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was doing really good. Everybody was doing really good. I was 4, 5, and 6. But the economy was going strong. Was nailing commercial real estate. Then the recession hit. Went flat broke. I'd had a couple SUVs. I had a big old yacht boat. Lost everything. Lost the boat. Lost the cars. Lost the job. I mean, it was so bad. I was in court fighting for the house, and the sheriff actually come and locked my wife and my daughter out of the house and foreclosed on our house while I was in court. So anyway, I won the court case. Guy, a lawyer friend, pro bonoed everything, got my keys back. And so we were actually freaking homeless at one time in 2004. No, in 2004 and 2008. I'm sorry, after the recession. So yeah, it's been a crazy life. Been ups and downs. Money's come and gone. Actually been homeless. Had to rebuild everything. That's when Tony joined the army. I mean, we looked at each other and said, "Look, man, I'm flat broke. What do you want to do?" And she was 40 years old, and she goes, "I want to join the army." I said, "What the hell?" so, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of I'm kind of breaking the story up and back and forth in pieces, but that's when she joined at 40. I said, "Well, shit, okay, it's your turn." I, I'm I'm 10 years old, so I was probably 50 at the time. So I said, "Okay, let's go do what you want to do." So she joined the army. Went to, well, you know her story. She went to Fort Knox. I mean, no, Fort Knox, Fort Jackson, and got into the behavioral health side of the stuff. Like I said earlier, after my crash and what she went through and saw what families go through. Her dad was 3 times Vietnam, Max Saw guy, and he got some mental stuff going through him too. So I think that's what led her into that caring person. Wanted to, I suppose, help others. Most people that are in that type of medical field do apparently like to help others too. I could hear shitty stories all day. I'm the type of I can't wipe the day. I can't listen to your sad. Just it would crazy. Certain people do that and they enjoy it. And then that's I think what's probably kept us together. I have no idea.
So if you were going to have to live like 1 year of your life again, or go through one assignment, or what year would it be, or what would you go back and do again?
I go back to that instructor pilot course again. That was such a stressful but thrilling time, and I think it was the one of I've done jump school, I've done air assault, like I said, scuba dive, sky. I mean, I think I was at the pinnacle of my career as a warrant officer and a pilot to be an instructor pilot. To teach both. To me, I think that was where I felt I had achieved finally. I think that's if I had to do it over, I don't care if you freak out that was probably something that I was supposed to years. I mean, I ran with the Bulls in Spain, just did the Ironman stuff. That was probably if I had to do all over again, something I'd want to do again. Yeah, good question. I didn't read any of these questions you were asking. That's a good question. I would definitely pay to do that.
That's awesome, right? Because they put you in stressful situations where you had to react,
Yeah.
and if you didn't have your shit together, it wasn't no joke.
No, they send you home packing too. A couple guys go home. I was so scared I was gonna get sent home a couple times. I was like, oh my God, I thought I knew everything and but they really put me through the ringer. I was like, oh, and I couldn't fly the front seat because I've been flying the back seat so long as pilot in command. Then they put you in the front seat and you're flying that TADS. The PIVOT moves with your head real good, but the TADS, the target acquisition detonator or whatever, got a flare in it, but it moves real slow. So when you move it, you can't scan as fast. You can move your head, and the flare is not as good. Woo, and you got to be up there flying that thing, talking. They're, like you said, they're cutting your power off and pulling, hydraulics and shit off and shutting your flare off or whatever. They're just constantly fucking with you. But like I said earlier, before that sphincter factor stuff, I just loved it, man. Probably cried myself a few times and shit my pants, but I really, really, really would do that again.
So, what's your gift and what's your kryptonite?
I don't know. What is my kryptonite?
Well, probably Tony, right? That's part of it.
Say I would say she's probably my gift. And give me those two daughters, because I as a dad now with two daughters, realize I would never let my girls date anybody like me. So I'd say that's a gift, really. I ain't say God punished me with two girls, but I think if I'd had a boy, I don't know, I've been too strict on him or something. But girls are so. I mean, you're as a dad, you're their first love. I suppose, in a way, they really look up to me, and I suppose that's my kryptonite.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, if you were going to all right, you can't be a helicopter pilot, you can't be an army man, you can't be a marine.
Hmm.
How would you rescript your life? What would you be otherwise? Like, let's go back, let's make different decisions. Tell me about the new Kent.
Well, what I wanted to do, well, like growing up, was in the Scouts. My mom really pushed me. My mom was the pusher in my family. My dad, like I said, had a tough life as an alcoholic, but I got Eagle Scout. I like that adventure stuff. I honestly, when I grew up, I wanted to be like a Mel Gibson. I wanted to be a fucking treasure diving, scuba diving guy, going out looking for that treasure, living in Florida, eating lobster all day long, fishing, and just looking for that treasure. And so, I don't know what you said made me think of that, but that's honestly, if I, if I didn't, none of that shit would have worked out, and the right opportunities would have came along. I'd have damn given a left mad to be a dick, you know.
So, all right. So, what are you good at? Right? What is it that you're good at versus what are you not maybe so good at?
I'm really not good at it. I mean, I says I'm almost like that jack of all trades, but master of none. I'm good at a lot of sports, but not a master of any of those. I'm good at uh, I, I'm more of like what my job was in commercial real estate. I like putting things together. I was a broker. I like putting deals together. Bringing a good deal to both sides, bringing parties together. I was in commercial real estate. And I didn't want to sell. I didn't want the emotional sales. I wanted the. I went straight into the commercial real estate side. I got a good thrill out of brokering, putting deals together that both sides were happy. That's what was the question though? I mean, I think I missed something.
Just gifts, just gifts and what you're good at versus what maybe you struggle with.
I'm not a real. I would say I'm not a big people person. I'm not. I don't like to be in big gatherings, be in social events. Maybe I'm kind of a little bit to myself. You know, so I'm not the person. I don't like to be the face up front. I suppose I'm more like a back seat per. I might think I am sometimes, but I would prefer to be sitting back and observing. You know, I don't. I kind of I do it so much. I hate going to all these big parties, all these big gatherings. I mean, we were just up in New York City for this big event for Army Week, and you know, you're in tux, and I get tired of all that stuff. It's I say I meet a lot of fake people at these things too. You know, I like being a country kind of North Carolina laid back kind of person. I like meeting people like that who are just smile and talk to you and are friendly and open. They don't try to be somebody else. They don't try to, you know, put on wearing all these badges and ribbons and medals and talk about how great they are. Because most of the time I talk to and all they talk about is themselves, you know. But I'll listen. I'll pull questions, and they never ask about what you know. What do you do or anything? It's always let's talk about me. You know, they want to talk about themselves and what they've done. That stuff just burns me out. I would prefer, you know, if I could take my family and go live on a hut near the beach, fish, you know, we'll go lobster and all that. I'm a happy camper. I don't like all this, you know, expensive stuff. You know, I'm, you know, living here in Northern Virginia. I'm in an expensive house because it's expensive here, but I don't like this kind of stuff. I was happy in an RV. We were in an RV while we were building this house. You know, 400 square foot RV, four of us, two dogs, one of them's blind and a bird. And I was happy as could be. You know, it was just I didn't have a bunch of shit. You know, it was just us. We all sat down together. Nobody could go to their room and hide, or you know, we were all sitting down for. Back in the day when I grew up, with my parents, we all sat down for breakfast together. We all sat down for dinner together. That shit doesn't happen anymore. I don't. I mean, we try to do it, but it just for some reason it just doesn't. Happen. You know, so I miss stuff like that. You know, so if you know, if I
So
could
you
have that simple life, I'd be a happy camper. I don't big cars and boats and that shit anymore. It don't make any happy.
so you've said a few things about your growing up and your mom and dad and your family. Tell me about what it was like to be, you know, young Kent Walker growing up and the influence that maybe your mom and your dad and your brothers and sisters had on you.
Um, yeah, I have one sister. She's older than me. Completely opposite. I don't know where she came from, but she was just completely opposite from me. I'm pretty active in school and in sports. Um, like I said, the scouts got me into the. I stuck with that Eagle Scout. Uh, you know, played baseball, the football, did all. You know, went to high school. Uh, I like to party a little bit. You know, start drinking beer, smoked a little bit of weed. You know, that's 19 graduated 1979. So I did a few of things where probably things I shouldn't have done. You know, just raised in a small town, uh, wanting to get out. You know, uh, it, just growing up in that environment, knowing that it was just a big deal to go to the beach. You know, once a year was. But well, I was happy. Didn't know any different. Once I got a little bit older, I was going. I got to get out of North Carolina. But I mean, the home life was okay. My dad, you know, he struggled a little bit with alcohol. Ended up dying of cancer. Day in boot camp at Paris Island, he was in the hospital having some dizzy spells. And then the day I graduated from boot, he couldn't make it. So my mom, my sister, the girl I was dating in college came and picked me up at Paris, and um, the whole time I was in boot camp, Red Cross was saying, "Hey, your dad's dying of cancer. You need to come home." My mom was saying, "You need to come home." They let me talk to my dad once, and I got on the phone with him. Don't come home. Stay there. Finish up. So I stayed, and then, like I said, the day I graduated, I called him up and talked to him. He could barely talk. He said, "Hey, hurry home." So I hung up the phone with him, and it was a 2.5 hour drive home. By the time I got home, he'd already passed away. So it was just supposed to be an exciting day, the day he graduated from boot camp, but he passed away of cancer that day at 48. So a little too young, and so it was just just another shitty day, I suppose. But things happen. It is, yeah, 48. I was like, damn. And then I was thinking, well, shit, because you're that young, you think, oh, you're gonna die at that age. Are you gonna make it to 50? So maybe that's why I did all these stupid, thrill-seeking, things at times. Just didn't care. But yeah, tough life. Then my mom, she buried him. He was 48. She was 46 then. She married another guy, my stepdad. About 5 years later, he died of a heart attack. And then so she married about 5 years later. She married another man. About five, and then about 6, 7 years together, he died of a heart attack. I call her the Black Widow. But so she's 86 now, and she's not getting married anymore, and still lives by herself. So she's still kicking ass and taking names, and I'm gonna try to go see her this week if I can. But yeah, that's Salisbury, North Carolina. We'll call it Smallsbury, but yeah, everybody knows your business in that town, and I had to get out of there because everybody knew my business.
So all right. So let's think about something. All right. So how Kent's what, 60 something now, right?
Me, yeah,
So
yeah. Born
yeah. So what? So where's Ken at 88? You know what? Where do you extrapolate at? Are you going to be the crotchety old man that's sitting up on a mountain somewhere, or you going to be planting gardens and inviting friends over? Or are you going to be still at the marathons, running down the road at 80 something years old? What does that look like for you? What does the future look like 20 years or so down the road?
in my mind's eye, I'm sitting on that hut on a beach, going out lobstering, fishing, taking those siesta naps. Got old mama there by my side. The kids are gone. Hopefully, we're still having sex, and and I'm still running marathons. Yeah, and scuba diving. I just love, hopefully, if we can afford it, that's the life's plan. Don't want no big house. Don't want nothing but just the little necessities. A little place that the kids can come and visit, and just chill and just enjoy life. I really don't want to work much longer. Like I said, I'm 61 now. I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs, which is another heartwarming job because I'm a project manager and I build the hospitals, the clinics, the domiciliaries, the mental health centers, community living centers, all for the veterans. So that's my love and passion I have now. I get to give back and provide all these veterans with this. I work here out of Washington, D.C. And it's a great job. I don't do nothing as a project manager. I just make sure everybody else does their job. And then I get to see these finished products of these new hospitals and new clinics, and mental health clinics is the big thing too. Is we need plenty of domiciliaries, mental health clinics for all these veterans out there. Because the VA's had the worst reputation. Over the years when I was growing up, everybody said, "Oh, the VA sucks." You know, it did and it does, but we're really trying hard. We've got a lot of money coming in from this new PACT Act. We had some new Choice Act leases. We do all build to suit leases now. We don't buy hospitals anymore and build. We lease them for 20 years, build to suit leases. So we've probably got about 600 buildings got to get rid of still, but it's the VA's changing. We're getting some money and building some nice stuff. If they would just pay their staff a little bit more, because we get some of the lower tiered staff and doctors because they don't get paid as good as they do on the outside world. So I think they need to take some of that money that they're spending on these new facilities and, you know, pay the pay the supporting staff and the nurses and all these things, because they're quitting left and right, or it's, you see these brand new hospitals, but you don't have them staffed well. So I hope the Secretary of VA is not listening, but I mean that's the only thing I see wrong with it. But that's my passion now. I hope to wrap that up soon. Hope Tony's going to retire soon. My youngest daughter's got one last year here in high school. Hopefully she'll go into the Space Force or something. But then that's my next goal, is to get out there on that beach somewhere and get an old shack. I'll be a happy camper, and still, because we go down to um, last couple Christmases, we've gone down to the Keys and Key West, and we're just in shorts all day, flip flops, and on a bicycle, and we're happy, fishing out there and stuff. So I don't want to really go there. Maybe a little bit too high. It's hot there in the summer, but Tony's from Bradenton, St. Pete, that area. So I'd like to be somewhere in that Gulf area. I love Panama City Beach, but she likes Bradenton, Tampa area. But some of the most beautiful sand I think I've ever seen in my life. The real fine white sand. If you ever been to Fort Walton, Panama, well, yeah. So beautiful beaches. I mean, the water's nice. I would love to still be doing. I mean, I'm not saying I'm hooked on Iron Man stuff now, but I was like, it really wasn't that bad. Yeah.
You cannot tell me that swimming 2.4 miles through like swells and then biking 112 miles and then running none of that. Look,
It
I
doesn't.
ran. It's
I know.
crazy.
I know, but something about it is actually fun.
I
I
look.
never thought about it a year ago. I just wanted to. Tony mentioned. I said, well, shit, I'll give it a try. Why not? Huh?
So look, I looking like if I had done it, I would be like, look, I did all this stuff in one day.
Yeah,
But like each thing individually is
yeah,
a big deal.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a huge deal.
yeah,
Like I rode my bike for 10 miles the other day.
yeah. That's still good.
10 right, right. That's good. I
Yeah,
was like proud of it. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, Kent and Tony ride their bike for 112 miles and ran 26 miles. And the thing that gets me is swimming. I
yeah.
would drown. I would DROWN drown.
That was my biggest fear, because when I get in a pool, I sink like a rock. I mean, I've never, been in the Carolinas and middle of the Carolinas. I never knew how to swim. I mean, I could swim, but it was all head above the water, going back and forth like that. I never knew how to put my head down, keep my and get that stroke going, until, like I said, a couple of months ago. I watched tons of YouTube videos. I hate coaches. Everybody, get a coach, get a swim coach, go to master class. No, I just watch it on YouTube and go out there and practice it. So that's how I learned how to freaking swim. But that was my biggest fear. I'm going to get in there. Actually, it was when the freaking race started. Me and Tony both, within the first 15 minutes, we were looking at each other going, I can't make it. It was, the swells were gone. Like you said, there was just people were getting pulled out. And I was going, there's no effing way in hell I can swim. I'd swim maybe a tenth of a mile. I said, I got 2.4 more to go. But I think we just both put our head down and said, fuck it, let's just go. If we don't make it, because if you don't make the first mile at a certain time, they pull you out. So I like, thank God I just made the first cut off. So I go around one more time and just barely made the time. I think we had like maybe 20 minutes to spare, or they would have pulled us out. Same thing with the bike. You go to halfway point at that 50, 60 mile mark or so, where it was. If you're not there at a certain time, the old sag wagon throws you in the van of shame and drives you back. But we just made that cutoff point. So it's like, whew. But we finished, and it wasn't no record time or anything, but we stuck together. We encouraged each other. She cried a little bit, bawled like a little baby, but Well, we got her across the finish line, so it was good. It was good.
Amen. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that, both as like individuals for each other, but that also as a couple, right?
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah. Because I think most people, there were couples there, but they all went individually, did their own thing. So I just told her she was, and then we got on the run. Well, you haven't talked to her since then, but both ready to quit the first 10 minutes of the swim. Got it. Got on the bike. The bike to us was kind of easy. Well, not easy, but it was okay because we could stop and they give you bananas and goos and hydrate and all that stuff. But then on the run, we got the first maybe mile on the run, and she's crying like a baby. She goes, "I can't make it. I don't want to go." I said, "I'm not fucking quitting unless you pass out." I said, "Keep going." So I was yelling at her and pushing her. She got mad at me a few times, but I think I pissed her off so much she just started running just to get away from me.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. So, what? Tell me about like long nights, like helicopter crashes, like crazy swims. There's no atheist in foxholes. There's something that keeps you going. There's some spiritual component to you that makes you do the things you do. Because otherwise, we'd all just curl up in a ball and not ever sign up for anything that was difficult.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Cause I mean, I grew up in a Lutheran background. I suppose my parents went to a Lutheran church. I hated it. I freaking hated it. Then I went to a Baptist with my school friend, only just because I'm in the Bible camps. And I just hated all that stuff. Um, wasn't much of a God fearing type person, I suppose. I wouldn't say I was an atheist, but I was always afraid to say I was an atheist. But I was more spiritual. I couldn't figure it all out. And then I had the helicopter crash, and that kind of really almost made me an atheist. I was like, God, why? Why? Why this poor kid? Why not me? I went through all that shit, and then I think it was just I started studying several different religions and stuff and spiritual things, and I just had a hard time believing in the Christianity thing. Some of the stories I read in the Bible, I said, this just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I'm offending several Christians. I'm sorry, but I think there's several ways to get to God. Because I had Muslim friends that I met growing up in Charlotte and stuff too. And I said, how can my Christian friends say that he's wrong? His beliefs are wrong. He's going to go to hell because he doesn't believe in through Jesus Christ and stuff. I really don't like to talk politics and religion, but you hit a point to me, which is I'm a spiritual. I do believe in a higher power. I do kind of believe. Sometimes I pull on the spirit of my dad or whatever. So I believe something's out there, but I just can't see some old man sitting on a cloud or all these other things. And you know, Muhammad, and I've read parts of the Quran and Torahs and stuff, but it's just I like a lot of the meanings and the spiritual things behind it. But to me, sometimes I'll just say, my God's much bigger than that. My God's loves everybody. Doesn't care if you get there through as a Muslim or through a Christian or a Jew. If you get there and you believe and you do good things, you do try to do the right things, which it's still hard every day. It's a struggle, but I think that's what got me through the cause. In that, like I hate to say it, but you said when I got in that water, I just said, God, get me through this. Just I just put my head down. Just God, let me finish. Whoever you are, or whatever you are, just get me through this. So that's like I said, don't really like to talk about religions and stuff, but I am a very spiritual person. And to be honest with you too, now I've quit drinking. Me and Tony both go to AA meetings. We were just at one yesterday. Good group of people. They just you just need to believe in that higher power and believe in a God of your understanding. As long as you believe that you're not in charge, you're not in control, and you have to let go and let God guide you and direct you to these things, that has made my life a lot easier. I said, I don't drink anymore, don't party, don't do any of that crazy shit. It took me 60 years to figure it all out, but that's kind of where we're at. Spiritual wise, it's been a good journey. I think I'm here to do good thing. I want to help people. Whatever I can or do. I suppose that's my calling. I haven't found out what it is yet. I'm just trying to go through, each day to do the best I can, and eventually it'll all fall in place. So somehow I'd like to keep helping others and keep pulling on that spiritual belief that I have that I'm not in charge. I had the worst ego, as you probably knows, as being an attack Apache pilot. I didn't think my shit stunk for a long time. I had a real ego I had to chip away at, and sometimes I thought I was better than other people too. Yeah, that's all gone. Yeah, I think we're all equal. Treat everybody the same.
Amen. Amen. So you got two daughters,
Hmm.
and we're going to begin to kind of close this interview out. And part of what we're going to do is we're going to think about what kind of advice you might give to your daughters, and how you might share your love with them, because eventually this is going to go, on this thumb drive, and there'll be an interview that your kinfolk can look at, long years down the road. What kind of message would Kent Walker give to his offspring?
I don't even want to cry. You make me cry here. Mm.
I know, right? It's wild. But look, dude, I love you, man. I love you and your wife. I've met you guys off of Facebook because of the presence that y'all have. Y'all are making a difference. You inspire me. It's really neat, the love and the coolness that y'all share over the things that y'all do. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you. And I look forward to maybe meeting you guys one day and giving you a big hug. And I'll go run about 10 miles, but that's about it, man, dude. That's about it. I gotta stop at about 10.
Yeah, where you at now? What town are you in?
Dothan, Alabama, dude. I'm just out.
Uh,
Yeah.
what's that, Lake Tikalaco or Tika
Lake Thalaka.
Lake? It
I was
was
just
closed down.
there on the banks.
Yeah, it was closed down when I first got there, but I don't know what happened. But they just opened it back up, and me and another Cobra Pot was out there throwing frisbees, and the local newspaper come and took pictures of us because the lake had opened back up. I don't know if it was leeches or whatever they had out there back in '89 or '90, but I remember that. But we'll have to go take you swimming out there at that lake. But yeah, as far as my daughters, God, I love them. I just want them to do better than what me and Tony have done. I try not to spoil them, but sometimes I have. I just just tug at your heart. Daughters do. Oh, it's like ugh, and you just want the best for them. I want them to truly do better and be better than what you know me and Tony are. We try to take them to as much things as we can, get them involved. We've when we were at Fort Knox, we took them to the homeless shelters. Gave out stuff. And, yeah, I want to really get them involved early, thinking about helping others in the community. Because I didn't give a shit, but when I was young, it was just all about me. It was all me and my ego, and nobody could get in the way. And that was it was probably. I know it's the wrong thing to do, but it's kind of made me who I was, I suppose. But I don't want my kids to be like that. I don't want my kids to be like I was. So if I could keep them in school, you know, keep them doing good in the community, and have them marry a person that loves them, mm, you know, that's my goal.
So, what's your best joke? If you were put on the spot and you were asked your best joke, do you got a good joke you go to? Like, my best joke is, what did one math book say to the other? I got a lot of problems, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm worst at telling jokes, man. I could probably think of them, but they're all probably dirty. So I better not. My daughter's gonna watch this one day. I don't want to know how.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Hey, Kent, dude, I've had a blast talking to you tonight. You got a great smile, wonderful personality. I think you guys are national treasures. Thank you for your service. Continued service, and I'm just honored. I'm gonna give you the final word, and we'll close this out.
That's it, Will. I think I love you too, brother. I appreciate what you're doing, giving a lot of people a voice, especially like me. I don't like talking about things like this. You know, I was very reluctant about doing this. Tony really had to twist my arm. I postponed you once, but I'm glad I did it. So, like I said, hopefully maybe one day my daughters might want to check it out and hear things that I don't ever want to talk about. So, I mean, I'd love to come see you one day in there in Dothan and relive some memories and take you out for a swim.
Oh, that sounds good. All right, love you, Kent, man. Good night, man.
So be good, brother. Appreciate what you're doing.
Woo! Absolutely.
All right, take care. Good night.
Marshall in the middle.